Hey girl, hey, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Misha. Thank you guys for joining me back here for another review. Tonight we are reviewing Married to Medicine Season 8, Episode 5, Friendship, Foes, and Marital Woes. Honey, what in the Dr. Seussical, the musical, is going on with that title? All right, if you're here for the first time, then welcome. If you're back for a second or third time, welcome back. Please, everyone, if you like the commentary, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you will be updated each and every time I upload a video. Let's get into it, y'all. All right, so when the scene first opens up, we see Dr. Simone riding in her whip, talking on the phone with Toya, asking Toya why she left. Honey, let Toya leave, child. She acts a fool everywhere she goes. Then Toya basically told her, you know, she had had enough. And then we go over to Toya's house and we see Toya and she says Eugene is off. So she's having a little gathering and she's going to invite everyone over for a little kickback. Over at Dr. K's house, Dr. Kieran and Anila, honey, putting that mother-in-law smooth out. Honey, got her bags packed, kicking her right on out of there. Then we go over to Dr. Contessa. She was complaining about her kitchen because, like, of course, I guess she's doing some renovations. And then we go back over to Toya. Okay, so Toya comes into the kitchen because I guess they're getting ready for the gathering of it all. Toya comes into the kitchen, Dr. Eugene, and they're cooking up as usual. Listen, Toya hit the husband jackpot with Eugene. You know what? I feel like all the husbands, one thing I can say about all the husbands on Married to Medicine, with the exception of Lisa Nicole Cloud's husband, honey, who they tried to out in front and confront about his cheating. These are some stand-up guys. Curtis, sometimes he a little questionable, honey. You know, he had his little infidelities a few seasons back, honey. I still got my eye on him because I don't quite trust him. But the other guys seem on the up and up, honey. Ain't nothing came out about them in 8 years, so it's a good track record, honey. Let me knock on wood before I ruin these people's good streak, honey. Anyway, Dr. Eugene and they're cooking and peeling and sauteing, honey. And so Toya was like, where the kids at? Girl, he got to cook and figure out where your kids are. Honey, girl, why you don't know where your children are? So then she calls one of the kids and she's like, look, y'all gonna have to stay upstairs because mama about to have a party. I'm like, oh my goodness, child. Ooh, Toya. Okay, then the ladies start to show up. Dr. Simone shows up. Cecil got a pizza, honey. Cecil said, look, I got to get something in my stomach before we start doing what we going to do. Toya was like, why you bring that pizza in here? He was like, look, I already talked to Eugene. Honey, you ain't running me. You might run Eugene, but you don't run me. I'm going to eat this pizza today. Okay? Then Carrie shows up, honey, one of the OGs. Okay, Carrie Wells, honey. Got your little London swimsuit on. Okay, and then Anila shows up. Lisa in the Cloud Cold makes an appearance this episode. So the OGs say hi to one another because what I realized, besides Anila, honey, who just stepped on the scene, these are all the OGs from season 1. And I liked this mix. I feel like if they brought all these girls back, brought back Mariah, threw in Heavenly, because you know Heavenly got to get it started, honey. I think it'll be good. Toya says that Lisa lives close by, so she thought that maybe she should hang out with them more often. So Lisa said, you know, when she came out, she said, I'm having flashbacks of season 1. And right when she said that, I was definitely thinking the same thing. Because remember in season 1 when Mariah and Toya had that fight and Toya like hit her in the head with her purse, or was it Mariah that hit Toya in the head? I think it was Mariah that hit Toya in the head with the purse, honey. And they went down in that pool, child. I will never forget that, honey. That was a fool. That's when I fell in love with Married to Medicine. I said, oh, this is about to be a mess, honey. And I love some mess, okay? Anyway, so she was just telling her she was having a little flashback. Dr. Simone tries to introduce Lisa. Don't try to introduce Lisa, honey, because, and the way you introduced her was all wrong. And I felt so bad for Lisa when she used to be on the show because her backbone just wasn't there at the time, honey. But she did get quad all the way together when they had that little sit down. But anyway, so Dr. Simone told Anila, yeah, Lisa used to hang out with us and she left us. Toya said, no, she was pushed out. Now, Toya, I don't normally agree with you, especially this season, but you are right. She was pushed out because Quad picked on her, brought someone, allegedly, honey, because I'm just trying to figure out how this man showed up to a Quad dog event to tell Quad that Lisa Nicole's husband was sleeping with him. That just will never make sense to me, honey. The bomb was not bombing. Like you were saying something and you had a moment, but it wasn't giving what it was supposed to be giving, because I felt like it was a setup. I felt like, it was a setup that Quad did to come to us with the bullshit. Okay? Allegedly. Anyway, let's move forward. The ladies get in the pool. They start talking about tennis, and that's all Toya got to talk about, honey, is the French Open. So they're talking about the tennis, and Toya said the other night she had a dream about her and Simone having a threesome. Yuck. Okay? I would never look at Simone and say, ooh, I wonder if I could. No. Child, them teeth, and she be laughing to my... Honey, no ma'am. Honey, nobody about to be dealing with all that in the bedroom, child. But anyway, Toya was quite impressed with Simone and her moves, honey. She said Simone was putting it down with the man in the bed, honey. Simone had the moves like Jagger, okay? So they get in the pool. Simone falls in the pool. And they're like, Simone, you okay? Honey, that wig floated right on off Simone's head. I said, oh, my goodness. Simone. One thing I can appreciate about Simone is that the wig floated on off her head. This is true. But, honey, Simone laughed it on off. She's a good sport. Child, if you don't grip them wigs, honey, they got wig grips. You could use a little bit of touch of Gorilla Glue or Gorilla Snot or whatever with a gorilla in it and tack that down, honey, or some Got to Be. Child, you're just going all out with edgeless stuff ain't tacked down. Don't do that, honey. And I had a question. So is Toya mad at Dr. Jackie too? Because why didn't she invite Dr. Jackie? Honey, y'all gonna have to invite this lady somewhere, so we just not gonna see her in the scene. Granted, she brings nothing to the scene, honey. She just sits there. But at the same time, allow this woman to get her check, honey. Then we go over to Dr. Contessa's office, and the guys are meeting up. Dr. Scott, Dr. Eugene, Dr. Damon, honey. The physicians, the black male physicians. Oh, I love it. So they were asking him about working with Contessa. And, of course, they do some cut scenes. We see Dr. Damon and Heavenly talking about them. And Heavenly was like, I run my office and I will run his too. Dr. Damon said, yeah, me and Heavenly would clash. Y'all sure would, honey. You going to need a little break from her. You going to need it, child. Back at Contessa's house, she's talking to Scott's niece about the things on her plate. And she's talking about Scott and how she doesn't feel that he supports her dreams. I don't feel like she should have been talking to his niece about that. Like, I just felt like that was inappropriate. Don't drag her in between y'all's mess, because your marital issues are your marital issues. Y'all the one decided to stop going to counseling. Y'all need to restart counseling and talk to a counselor about that. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned by being married is that their family is their family. She gonna nod and smile and say everything that seems like she's in support of the woman. But at the end of the day, that's her family, and they can do no wrong, honey. And the tables will turn real quick, honey. Get yourself a counselor and speak to them. The guys over there putting up a TV, honey. Neither one of them know how to do it. So Dr. Eugene said, you know what? I've done this before, honey. Eugene, you do it all, honey. Jack of all trades. So he puts the TV up, helps them out, because they were struggling. Dr. Damon starts talking to Dr. Scott and said that, Scott was saying he's just getting acclimated to Contessa being back, and that the fuse between he and she is short. Honey, they might pop off at any given moment. And I felt that. I don't feel their connection like I did when they first jumped on the scene. I don't know if that's because they were new. And I was like, oh, they have a nice relationship. And maybe they fooled me. But I don't know. I just feel like it's not the same. So Damon said it didn't work for them, honey. Working together didn't work for them, but it may work for y'all. Contessa's back over here still talking to the Afrocentric niece of it all. And she's over there saying that they need to address some things. Yes, y'all do. And she looks at her and she said, our relationship has been the same for 10 years. No communication, etc. So the niece was like, is that good? She's like, no. She said, I'm just getting used to thinking that this will be my life, honey. This is going to be what happens. Child, that's not good. Get back in some counseling and try to get your spark back. Do something that will help you. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Jackie tried to give you some words of wisdom. You didn't want to hear it. You just wanted to toast. But now I'm starting to think you might really need to talk to someone because you're unhappy. And it seems like he is too. Because the way he's talking to Dr. Damon, honey, child, Dr. Damon gave Scott some words of encouragement. Then we see Dr. Jackie and Heavenly meet up for lunch. They didn't hug each other, but then they sat down and ate lunch without a mask in each other's faces, in close proximity, talking and projecting and whatnot. That made absolutely no sense. Honey, y'all might as well have hugged. Child gone. I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's because they work in a sterile environment and they don't want to touch each other physically because they have to go back to that environment. But sitting so close and talking and eating is the same thing. But okay. Anyway, another thing I didn't like about this scene is I miss Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie sitting down in their lunch scenes. That's a Married to Medicine thing. If you're a real watcher and you've been watching since season 1, you know every season they sit down with them cold chips and that cold sandwich, and they sit down and they gonna eat and they gonna talk, or a salad, because Dr. Jackie ain't eating nothing fried, dyed, and laid to the side. It's just not gonna happen. And every time I watch them eat lunch, I be thinking, it ain't no chicken around nowhere, not a Popeyes down the street, not a Chick-fil-A, nothing. Maybe because I'm greedy. But child, yeah, so they sit down and they start having lunch, honey. Heavenly said, me and Simone, we're making an effort, but that's all you can do with Simone. And Dr. Jackie agreed. She asked, well, what can we do to make an effort? Because the Golden Girls need to get back together. Then they start doing these little flashbacks of what they've been through and where they've been. Because you remember they went to Miami together, back to visit Heavenly's stomping grounds and where she was born and what she went through. And they bonded over that. And I really liked all three of them together. So this is just a mess, child. I wish Heavenly would have just shut the hell up and never said nothing about Cecil, and we would have been fine. So she tells Jackie to call Simone. Dr. Jackie said, okay, I'll call her. So, hello, Dr. Jackie, now paging Dr. Simone. No, I'm just playing with y'all. So she was like, when can we get together? Simone said, I'm willing to talk. I'm like, come on, Simone. She'll be talking about, but I don't want you to get your hopes up and be expecting something that you might not get. I'm just telling you now. Honey, I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody like that. Look, if you're going to give me a disclaimer before I meet you and you don't even know if I'm coming with my gloves off or what I'm coming as, honey, then you need to go on, honey. No, thank you. And even Heavenly said, now why Simone can't just say, okay, with open arms. Okay, yes, we'll meet, honey. Then they pan down to these ugly socks. Honey, what in the moonwalk Michael Jackson circa 1987 is going on here? Heavenly, them big crew socks on. Heavenly said, these Dr. Damon socks, honey, leave me alone. I know that's right, child. Put your socks on and go, honey. They ain't supposed to be down there by your feet. No way. Anyway, back over at Anila's house, she goes by with her husband to pick out some things and talk about the budget. Okay, as they are looking around, Anila turns smooth into her mom, starts nitpicking each and every room. She doesn't like the tile. She doesn't like this. She doesn't like that. And her husband is trying to explain to her, Dr. Kieran, he says, look, I didn't work for 10 weeks, so I'm trying to get the money back that I lost during this time. And honey, he better be glad it was just 10 weeks. It's some people still sitting on the unemployment line. He's blessed and highly favored, and so is this ungrateful heifer. Sitting up here nitpicking everything, trying to figure out how to spend more money. The money is not endless. God, I cannot. Just like Toya, selfish and wants what she wants. So Anila said, I'm building my dream house. I'm building our dream home for us to live in for like 10 years. 10 years? Girl, what? Not you spending $30 million for the interior to live there for 10 years. Anila, shut up, girl. You so crazy. Girl, go on blog something and go sit down. Spending all this money like it's just to put on to stay up with the Joneses, honey. Like you're trying to keep up with the Joneses instead of doing what you can do and stop overextending yourself. Your husband is telling you straight up, the money is funny right now. I know you're not used to that, but you need to get used to it. At Toya's house, we see Eugene and Toya, and she's fussing about the bathroom because it's mess everywhere. Now, I'm kind of like that too, honey. Keep this bathroom clean, and you might need to use the other one. I'm sure y'all got several. Eugene is taking a testosterone shot. Honey, you need one. Because, I ain't seen a backbone up and through here in 8 seasons. So if you're losing a little bit of what you already had, we definitely need to double up on them shots, okay? And so he was just letting us know that some men lose that hormone. And so he takes it. And he's saying that, a lot of men have a stigma behind it because they don't want to feel like they're losing something. I did think that was interesting because I didn't know men could lose testosterone. I just thought some of them were just a little, they didn't have no backbone, honey. We could just push them all over. But the fact that they actually lose testosterone, I didn't know that. He was saying that, he was lacking energy. He didn't really want to, put it down on Toya because he was just tired. Probably tired of that mouth of hers. Anyway, So Toya was like, yeah, your sex drive was definitely low. So then he said, well, I don't want to do it in my legs anymore. I'm going to do it in my behind. So he pulls his pants down, which I think this scene could have been left out. She was freaked out. Toya, I wouldn't let Toya handle me with no needle because all she does is drink all day, honey. Walking around with that solo cup in that golf cart. I would not want her putting a needle anywhere near me. But I mean, that's your spouse. So Toya said, the kids actually think I'm the doctor. When something is wrong, they always come to me. Honey, they don't think you're the doctor. You're the mom. Kids are always going to run to the mom first. I don't care what the mom does, honey. She could not have ever done anything for them in life. It's something about a child that will gravitate to their mom for nurturing and for comfort. So, honey, put those teeth back with all that smiling, honey. It means nothing. She goes over. She administers the shot. Honey, I was nervous, but she did it. So, okay, congratulations. Now we go over to Dr. Simone, and we're at her house. It's moving day. It's time for Michael to go to college. Oh, I was watching this, and I was just like, oh, my goodness. I was just imagining my son going off to college, and I'm just going to be a wreck, honey. A wreck. Simone was like in the car, and she said, well, you know what? Maybe I should have asked my other son about more school questions, because she said when she took him off to college, I can't remember his name. When she took him off to college, she would just call and see how he was, but she didn't ask him about school. And by the time she did that, he was ready to come home. In the other car, Michael is saying he's looking forward to his freedom, honey. He can't wait to get away from them. And I was the same way, but at the same time, you are going to miss the comforts of home. Simone then is in the other car talking to Cecil about racism, and they said they wanted him to go to an HBCU, but with his basketball scholarship, Lee University was the better option. Dr. Heavenly's over at her office. Her son shows up, so she said he wants to be a dentist as well. She said she don't pressure them and make them make the decisions based on what her and her husband do. They come up with their own conclusions. So today he's going to be shadowing her. Now, if y'all remember in a few episodes back, Miracle, who was the 18-year-old activist, she got her teeth knocked out at the hands of a police officer. Well, she's back having some maintenance. Dr. Heavenly introduces her to Damon Jr., Then Dr. Heavenly starts to tell him, this is the kind of woman you want. A little Michelle Obama with a good head on her shoulder, honey. Go on, introduce him to a black queen. I know that's right, Heavenly. Dr. Heavenly says that she had some work done in her mouth, but they didn't do it correctly, so she's getting some permanent crowns. Back over here, they're back at Michael's dorm room, and they're unpacking everything. They go to eat, and Michael said, they were talking to him. He's like, I'm ready to get away. So he asked his brother, he said, what were your goals when you went off to college? He said, my one goal was to be successful, but I feel like you should make goals every semester. Like this semester, I want to get all A's. Next semester, I want to, get this done. And I thought that was some sound advice. This is just a beautiful family. I just love it, honey. It almost broke up because Simone was being Simone. She holds a grudge like no other, but they got it together. Anyway, Dr. Simone just lets him know, that they love him. And Cecil says, listen, everybody is not like your mom. They don't all know they want to be a doctor as soon as they're born. So your journey and your path may change several times. And that is okay. And that is the truth. Because when I went to college, I was dead set on being a pediatrician. I was like, I'm going to be a pediatrician. I want to be a baby doctor. I want to do this. I want to do that. Honey, got in the biology classes, those formulas start formulating, and honey, I was all confused. Math wasn't mathing. Honey, I couldn't even figure out what was 1 + 1. Honey, that science and biology had kicked my behind. Then I was at home for the weekend, and my aunt looks at me and she says, girl, the way you speak and the things you do, honey, why don't you try to be a news anchor? And I said, you know what? I do have the gift of gab, if I do say so myself. Honey, and I said, you know what? I think a news anchor would be good. Went back to school, changed my major to communications, radio and television, and boom. That's what I graduated in, mass comm. And I mean, I loved it because I loved, listening to how the news anchors change their voice, and everyone has this universal voice. I love my voice and diction classes. Just everything about communications just sat well with me. So I think that Cecil is absolutely right. Sometimes your path changes because you find things that you are good at that you didn't even know you could turn into a career. And, it happens. So they go back over to the dorm. He gives Simone a hug, and she says, I'm going to miss you. They hug each other for a long time. And she says she's going to actually miss how he gets on her nerves because, they had a back and forth kind of relationship, always joking with each other. But she also said that she's going to miss all of his hugs and his I love yous every day. Simone starts crying a little bit. Simone, I saw that. You was trying to hide it. And then they drive away. I was like, oh, bye, Michael, because he's one of the standout kids on this show. Michael has a charisma about him, and I think he's going to go very far. And that was the end of the episode. It was a pretty decent episode. If I had to rate it, I would rate it like a 6. I mean, it's COVID friendly. It's picking up. We'll see a little bit more during the season, honey. Can't nothing be worse than the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Thank y'all so much for listening and or watching. Please do not hesitate to like, comment down below. Tell me what you thought about this episode, if you watched it. If you did not, honey, I gave you enough information where we can still talk about it, okay? Share this with a friend. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, spread love, not germs. Peace.